Hey, Doreen, welcome back. Hey, Fabian, welcome to Vivid Days.
Hi.
Yeah, Patrick is still in the air,
Oh,
but
no.
there was a flight connection issue. So unfortunately, he'll be here for the round table, but he
Oh,
is too
great.
late for this session. So
He told me yesterday, and I was like, oh, I don't know about flying. It's going to be an issue, and it turned out to be an issue. So thank you, Fabian, for joining in last minute.
Sure.
All right, so Fabian, no, don't mean to put you on the hot spot. So I know you didn't create this session. Was there anything you would add or augment based on the session? I don't even know if you had time to view it or not.
Uh, well, I had time to view it, and there's not really much to add here. Patrick and Doreen described the entire scenario pretty much on the point. Um, don't think there has to be added much to it.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's get to the questions then. First one. They want to know if you're losing time in a manual process, can you quantify it?
yeah, some customers can. So um, some cannot, or some are not willing to share because it is kind of like a sensitive information for a lot of organizations. But just to give you some ideas, so we have had the customer that is from the transportation industry here that we were describing a little bit earlier, and that we were hoping to actually be the speaker at the session. But also that did not quite work out. But they were able to quantify it as in the process. So let's say they had the manual process before, they did the call outs um, to the workers in the field that they needed to dispatch and be there in case there was an accident. And they had this issue with the lists, and that it was just taking all night to basically call through the lists. And the lists were not extensive because based on the skills, that could range anything from like 70 people to 150 people. But it was basically, and it still is, by the way, one person compiling all of this. So one person that has to look at what's the accident like, then who's skilled, who has the according courses and training and certifications to actually report to work the next morning, and then try and reach out to the people. When they did one call out to 80 people, so like an average list, they quantified the manual process as taking 6 hours approximately, 5 to 6 hours. Whereas with the automated process with Enterprise Alert that I put in place, it was 45 minutes to 1 hour and 20 minutes. So just to give you like a range here.
Wow. Fabian, any thoughts on this?
No, I know this scenario, and he's saving a lot of time. And while you talked about automation in the earlier session, um, we were talking about further automating this process so that even this compiling of lists can be automated. So there's still potential there. Uh, that won't make the operator's job obsolete. It just makes it easier for him because he still has to check this list if everything's correct. It's just
Yeah,
yeah. Sorry, Doreen.
it
Please take
comes
over.
back to the no, 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 it just comes back to the earlier point. I'm sorry because I'm interrupting you, but it comes back to the earlier pointer, Joe, that we had in a keynote. It's like, oh no, is my job going to go away because we're automating? But essentially, if you think about that particular scenario, it's one person doing the job, right? One
Yep.
person that needs to compile the lists, call out, etc. And then what that one person, and this is how our customer described it, it's a girl actually. She complains because she says she can never do anything right because either she's taking too long, or she has to call on contractors, she has to divert from the list, or certain certifications that are not locked, so she doesn't bring the right people in. So it's just like it's always on her. She's trying her best to make it work, but
Yep.
she's always the one that gets hit. So for her, life is just going to be peachy going forward because A, she saves time, and B, she knows that she's going to get it right because, or people cannot complain about it because it's all fed into the list automatically because they're actually doing this right now where they have like a different project where the lists are going to be compiled automatically as well versus just the call out being automated. So for her, life is going to be great going forward.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Next question. They want to know do you feel that you need to be more efficient in filtering through the noise? I know with all kinds of alerts, you always get noise. So, any thoughts around this?
Yeah, yes and no, right, Fabian? Because it's like a technical
Yeah,
and a
yeah.
non-technical answer. I don't know what we want to do
Yes,
first.
there
Maybe
is.
you go first.
Yeah, so from my perspective, it's always giving the customer the means to do the noise filtering himself. So what we usually do during a project is we train the users and the team managers to be able to filter through the noise on their own, and to build or their own alert policies so that they can tune them to what they need. So yes, we have to get more efficient on the filtering through noise, but at the same time, it's something that comes with experience. So usually, once we set up a system, it takes a couple of weeks to a few months, based on the amount of events they have, to fine tune their policies and alerting processes. So while they get noise at the beginning, they soon learn to tune the policies in a way that the noise is reduced to near zero. So while they first had some calls that were not strictly necessary, they now only get calls when it's really critical, and then they also start to use features like delay the alert until the next day for the business hours. So they had issues that came up during the night, like full disk, that they do not have to immediately address. So they just get this notification when they know they're in the office, so they can address it when they're back, basically.
It's like with everything. I mean, you start, deploying one technology that helps you with an immediate issue that you have. So let's say the immediate issue is, hey, I missed an alert. So I want to make sure I don't miss alerts anymore. And then if that is a given, then you go like, hey, but hang on, now I'm getting too many alerts, and then you fine tune that. So you take it one step at a time, right? So this is kind of like where this sits. So essentially, even from day one, we already reduce the noise significantly, but yes, it is a process because the workflows have to be fine-tuned, because when you start utilizing the solution, you might not be aware of the potential that sits behind it. So you take it one step at a time.
How do you communicate that to a company? I'm sure they just think you're going to implement and bam, ground running, no issues. And it's like any agile project, over time gets better based on feedback and tightening up the loop.
I call this relationship-based business. So we don't necessarily just drop a license on someone's table and then run away and hope they'll continue paying us, but we actually build a relationship with the customer. So we want to understand their needs going forward. So they might have it, like I said, they have an initial issue. So essentially, I would not tell them about all the potential that sits behind it, because their most urgent issue is what they're faced with at this point, and this is what we're going to solve. And then we usually have a little bit of deployment and training as part of it. And in the training, you can already address and showcase some of the additional options that you have. And then you just build a relationship with the customer, and you understand where they're coming from and where they're hoping to go to. And this is how you educate them in the process. So not so much like a consulting company, because we really just do that around our product. Mm-hmm. But if you like, we're consulting on our own product. Yeah.
Cool. And Fabian, I don't know, how much are you involved with that piece?
That's pretty much what I do. That's most of my work. So I'm the guy that comes in, set up the software with the customer, trains him in usage of the product, and helps him along the first few weeks, a month, for the setup. And I'm the go-to person for him if he has something, if he has a question, or if he has a challenge he cannot face on his own. The customer just usually shoots me an email and asks me, hey, how can I solve this? And I make a few suggestions to him. maybe give him a call, talk him through it, and then he's happy again, or even happier than he was before. And then that's what I do.
So is there anything you see over and over again that customers struggle with, or that you think would help customers know right up front?
What Doreen said, so we don't go in and provide the entire solution at the first point. So we fix the immediate issue, and afterwards things are growing. Well, what we often see is that that the customers want to do everything in one go, but they have to sometimes take a step back and let things evolve slowly.
Great advice.
Well,
yeah. Next question. Were you going to say something, Doreen?
I was just going to say that to the point almost of what we had in the keynote, that there's a couple of things that you always have coming from customers. And really the one aspect is like, hey, I have so much noise going on around me, whether it be the myriad of systems that we mentioned earlier, or just a lot of stuff that needs to be prioritized and worked through. That is a very, very common approach. Or the one question that I got asked too, like, did you miss an alert? And then customers say, yep, we missed an alert, and it cost us, if they can quantify it, it cost us XYZ. And now we want to make sure that this is not going to happen again, pretty much like an insurance. So this is very typical. Or they just say, hey, we need transparency on who's working on an issue and when it gets resolved, because we need to report to our management or to our customers. So these are regular situations that we're faced with.
Awesome segue to the next question. And the question is, do you have full transparency of who is on the call at all times?
If it is scheduled, yes. If it is not scheduled, then we have a fallback that basically reminds the team that has a gap in their schedule that there is a gap, and they should make sure that these times are scheduled or taken care of. So yes, you have full transparency of that. We have an overview, and maybe Fabian wants to talk about how that looks like, where you can see that at a glance. And you also can go into the actual product in more detail and just look at the schedule and, get an overview of the different teams depending on your access credentials and the team memberships that you have.
Cool.
Yeah, what we have is, so what you can do in each team is you can schedule on-call times. We have a calendar overview for this, where you just go in, drag and drop the user who should be on call, and just say, okay, he's on call from Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. till 8 a.m. And you have the who's on-call page that reflects this. So all teams that are on call are listed on this page. So what you can do, you can make this page publicly available. And then depending on what you want, you can also display the team numbers, so the users can directly call those teams to raise an issue, or in case you need this page for collaboration, you just put in the team number, and you get directly put through to the person who's on call. So you don't even have to put your private number on there. You can just have a team number, and this call gets routed to your private mobile number. So you can even save those pesky on-call phones that I hand around within the teams. You just use a private one without having to give out your private number. Enterprise Alert will handle this for you.
Very cool. So next question is, do most of your engineers or on-call technicians even have smartphones?
It depends on the company, actually. If you would have asked the same question 2 years ago, we probably would have said 50-50. But it's changed quite a lot. So a lot of them do have smartphones today, yes. Whether it's the their own smartphones that they use, or whether it's like a company smartphone or a combination of both. It really depends on the company and on the flavor. Does everyone, and this is kind of like the second, the afterthought of that question, does everyone have the mobile app part of it deployed? No. For some, that's not necessary, but again, this is growing strong as well, because with the mobile app, you have a lot of additional flexibility that comes with it, not only with our product, just in general. I mean, we've just talked about that too, that, you know, you're so used to just having your smartphone with you. It's very hard to even see people without the smartphone anymore. So you have everything on there. You have your emails synced, you have your appointments on there, you do, you know, your messaging, and you have all your apps on there, your productivity apps, and your games and your Netflix and whatever. So it's very, very popular to have everything that makes you productive, helps you perform on the smartphone. And so, yes, it is a very growing number, and it's way more than 50% of our customers now that do have the mobility aspect as in the smartphone app deployed.
Very cool. All right, next question. It's from Jim. Jim wants to know, is there a way, if you know within the alert, if you have multiple users and they are in a different groups, do you get called multiple times?
I'm trying to get, did you understand the question, Fabian?
Like, bring it back up.
I do think so. Let's say I'm in the database and in the network team, and we have an incident going out to both teams. Right now, I would have to say yes, he would get a call for the network team and for the database team, but I don't necessarily see that as a disadvantage. If you only get, if you would be reduced to just one of them, you wouldn't get the full picture of what the actual issue is. If you're talking about scenarios where you're in multiple groups and there's it's something big happening and you're getting flooded with events, it would certainly be a problem if you're in multiple groups, so that you get the many alerts that go out anyway multiple times. Yes, that would be an issue. But for that, we have a feature called duplicate suppression, and we have also a flood protection. So what this does is when a certain threshold is reached in terms of calls queued for you, the system would protect you from that. The system would stop calling you, and you, once this even flood, as we call it, is over, you will get a summary of how many calls have been suppressed for you. Cool. So you get a feeling for how big of the issue is, but you would still be free to work, and you won't be your time won't be eaten up by just trying to acknowledge all the 150 alerts that went through your account.
Very cool. Jareen, any thoughts before we get to the next question?
No.
Okay, cool. Next question. Looks like amazing functionality. How long is the typical implementation time?
The moment you basically know what you want, it's a couple of days to like maybe 2 weeks if it's a little more complex. The interesting part is to figure out what you want. So to the point of what do you currently have? How do you want to improve on it? What are the processes you want to put in? So that might require a little more prep time, maybe a couple of weeks before you do the actual implementation. But putting the product into place, as in the on-premise version of it, typically a week to 2 weeks. The cloud version of it is even faster because that's not as tied in to the back end as the on-premise solution is. So that's literally just a question of you going onto a website, downloading the app, putting in the access credentials, creating a team, and starting to work. And then depending on how much of integration you require, that might take a few hours to a day. But adding the functionality itself is really easy. We usually also recommend to just trial it out and do exactly that, because that'll give you a taste of what you want to do at the end of the day, as to what else you want to include in all of this, and how integrated the solution should be. And then from there, it goes to what, like I said, a day to like 2 weeks with the on-premise solution. Fabian, would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. The fine-tuning part takes longer, but actually implementation is very quick. It's just a bit of fine-tuning later on, and that comes with experience and time.
Cool. All right. Next question. They want to know, do you like your team to be self-managed, or do you prefer fully admin control and like to run things centrally? So what are your customers' general preferences, I guess?
If you would ask us directly, we would probably say the self-managed is kind of like the future in our eyes. The reality, however, is that a lot of customers still want some kind of centralized control. So we provide for both and both solutions. The cloud solution will be and have more of a self-managed appeal, because we believe, again, that this is part of the aspects of the cloud too, but it does have some central management aspects, and customers have asked us to include even more. Enterprise Alert, on the other hand, so the on-premise solution will have a little more of a hierarchical approach, but it also depends on you. On how you want to play it, because we give every customer the whole tool set, and then jointly we define where they see things going. Coming back to automation, we strongly believe in that. Even if, because of company policies and compliance and processes and whatnot, you do want to apply a more centralized approach initially, going forward and utilizing the system, the more power you give to the people, the more they will embrace it. That's just the way things go in our eyes.
Fabian, anything you want to add before I go to the next question?
No, that's
Cool.
that's how it is done usually.
Perfect. All right, next question is, what's your relationship with Micro Focus? I guess this is like a solution that lives on top of it, like a layer on top of it, to add better functionality or unique functionality that you offer?
Yeah, it's kind of like we call it the automated communication layer that sits on top of the Micro Focus product stack. So we come out of the HP side of the house. So we've been a partner, I want to say for 13, 14 years, something like that. And then about 4 years, a platinum level partner with Micro Focus. And we have a strong integration and added value strategy, if you like. So other than just providing some kind of webhook or email or whatnot that you can talk to with the Micro Focus product stack, we actually have a coded integration that makes two-way connectivity and communication with the Micro Focus product stack very easy. It's something that you'll see as you deploy it, as well as in the question of like, what is the leading system here? So you have your monitoring, you have your help desk. All of these systems have certain logging and filing and archiving facilities that you need for reporting, that you need to run certain analytics on. So if we talk about a communication layer that sits on top, usually the reporting happens a little further down in the whole construct. So you want to make sure that all the information and all the mobility and acknowledgement aspects get reported back to your event source. And this is something we provide for based on our integration with Micro Focus. So we have a very tight handshake there, if you like.
Awesome. So those are all the questions we have time for today. Once again, Fabian, thank you for joining us last minute. Thank you, Doreen, for joining us for the second session. Awesome stuff, and we'll see you in the roundtable, Doreen. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks
Fabian.
for having me. Bye.
Thank you. Cheers.